Welcome to It's All Fine and Dangy, where we talk about community, health, culture, and all of the big and little things that make life good. Here are your hosts, Dan and Angie.
Hey guys, and welcome to episode 98 of the It's All Fine and Dangy podcast. We have two more to go. I guess one more to go.
2 more till 100.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I cannot wait. I can't believe we've already got
that
close. And we have some very cool stuff coming up for our 100th episode. It will be our 100th, say that 3 times fast.
100.
100th special episode, and we'll have some cameos from old guests, and it's going to be a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Me too. But today we are interviewing our second ever international guest.
Oh my gosh, 2 in a row. How awesome is that?
I know. I'm so excited for this one. So today, again, all the way from Turkey, we are speaking with Dean Rinaldi. He is an author, a ghostwriter, a mentor, and an all-around nice guy. So let me just add Dean to the call here.
All right.
And I
love how he introduced you as just an all-around nice guy. He must have met you before or something, too.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for inviting me onto your show, Dan. And it's lovely to see you, Ange.
So nice to finally meet you kind of in person.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
As close as we can get right now.
You know.
Yeah.
But listen, after talking to our guest last week, we will be to Turkey.
Yeah,
we will be to Turkey one day.
We saw pictures of Jane's house and everything, and it looks amazing. So I would love to come and see you guys. It would be great.
We would love to see you over here. It's a lovely part of the world. It really is. I was always going to live abroad or retire abroad at some point. Not that I'm anti-England or anything like that. Far from it. I love my home country, but
sure.
I lived there for 50 odd years. So you want to, it's one lifetime in a big world. So you want to just go out and enjoy it.
I understand that.
We can relate at a smaller scale. You know, I'm from Apopka, and Angie's from a neighboring city, but we're talking about moving to North Carolina. It's not nearly as big of a move as you did, but it's the same concept where it's like, let's see what else is out there. Let's see a different area. And on that note, Dean, you know, when we start our interviews, we really like to learn a little bit about our guests personally before we kind of get into you as a writer and everything else. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself personally?
Certainly. Okay. My name is Dean Rinaldi. I'm British. I was born in South London. I'm now retired and living in Fethiye, Turkey, with my beautiful wife, Jill. And I ghostwrite, I publish, and I mentor first-time authors.
That's amazing. So first off, question from me. You think I would know this since I live at home with an author, but what is a ghostwriter and how did you get into that? Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, easy. I suppose the simplest form of explaining ghostwriter is it's the process of writing a book or a project that somebody else will get credited for. I believe this passionately, actually, that everybody has that one great book inside them or a story that they want to share, but they don't always have the time with work commitments and family or the energy or actually the experience of seeing a project right the way through to completion and publication and making it available, worldwide.
Oh, it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work.
Absolutely. And I see my role very much as asking lots of open-ended questions, the how, the why, what, where and when, and then really digging into the corners of our clients' minds and digging out those lovely little golden nuggets that you bring together for their kind of dream book.
Right.
I mean, ultimately, as a ghostwriter, my primary objective is to be able to tell their story, but in their voice. And it is wonderful when I've completed a project and then my client comes back to me and says, a member of my family has just bought my book and they said it was just like you were reading it to me. That was, you were telling me the story. And at that point, I know I've absolutely nailed it. So yeah, I
love that. So do you like sit with them and interview them and kind of get a sort of rhythm of their personality and things like that?
Absolutely. Well, we can do this online like this because technology it makes things so easy. I mean, I've ghostwritten for people in America, Australia, the UK, Turkey. It makes this easy, but we spend a lot of time and we talk, and I keep asking those questions because sometimes there's a little something at the back of their mind that once you touch on that nerve, it all starts flowing, and they will use the same point of references and the same words and gestures over and over again. And you just incorporate that into the book. And then anybody that knows them will go, wow, that's, it's like you're talking to me. It's like they say, 2 ears, 1 mouth, listen twice as hard as you're talking, and then you grab it. It's something that I enjoyed even more than when I was writing for myself.
Yeah, I was going to say that takes like a real talent. You know what I mean? To be able to take somebody else's just kind of brainstorming and just telling their story to you, and to be able to analyze them so much. Just like you said, you're looking at body language, you're listening to words they're using, phrases. I mean, that takes a talent.
Oh, no doubt. And I bet you've met some really interesting people doing this. But I'm curious, like Angie asked earlier, how did this start for you? Like, how did you get into this to begin with?
I suppose writing stories for me happened. I was about 7 or 8 years old. Now, this is about 1970, and I just read H.G. Wells' The Time Machine.
Oh, I love that.
Absolutely enthralled by this book.
Me too.
And at that time, we just landed on the moon. It was a moon landing in 1969, 1970. And Star Trek, the original series, was on the television. I love that too.
I love it.
So I was absolutely, science fiction just blew me away. And I wrote this story. I think it was about 8 or 9 pages long, which was a lot when you're 7 years old. And I remember the teacher was so pleased with me that she actually placed it right up on the wall,
I love it.
That was kind of my first long story, but it was something that always kind of stuck with me. And then it was about 1976. It's a glorious summer. We had a big heat wave here. It was probably normal Florida weather, but we had...
Sounds like every day, yeah.
Beautiful. 1976. I'll never forget that glorious summer. But I decided I had this story in my head, and so I decided I was going to write it. And growing up and living back in South London during that time, there were lots of stories and myths about the infamous Kray twins in East London, the kind of gangland that ran it during the 60s. And in south of the river, you had the Richardson mob, and they pretty much ruled London south of the River Thames. And you had all of these stories, and I wanted to create this character, and I suppose I based it a little bit on the head of the Richardson mob, which was a guy called Charlie Richardson. It would be very easy just to think he was just some simple thug. He wasn't. He was a very, very clever, astute businessman. He happened to hurt people as well.
But he came off like a simpleton, kind of.
No, far from it.
No, I mean, but did he seem like, because of the impression I just got from you, is he kind of if you didn't know, you wouldn't realize just how smart and calculated he is.
I would imagine people could underestimate him, and that would have been a good thing.
Right.
But I used that kind of character from the stories that I'd been told back in the 70s, and I wrote this book. And anyway, I finished it. It was a full novel for me. Back then, a full novel was 2 exercise books, which is about 128 pages.
Short.
And I took it into my English teacher. I had the most amazing English teacher. Her name was Nikki Weaver, and I found her very, very inspirational. Really, she really was. But not just for me, for everybody in the class. Now, at the back of the class, you've always got your people that are going to make a little bit of noise and think they're being funny, throwing things around, but not in her class.
Right.
In her class, she engaged everybody. She just had this wonderful way about her. And I remember I finished the book and I was so excited and wanted to give it to her to read, and get some feedback from it. And I gave her the book, and she was very complimentary, and she said, "Look, I'm actually friends with the editor of a local newspaper, which was the Sutton-Cheam Herald at the time. And,
wow.
Yeah, well, it was lovely. He invited me to meet him at their offices, and I was 14 years of age. This is 1976, and I went along there. I felt wonderful. I went into the reception, and showed me up to the office, and brought me tea, and we sat down, and he put my book in front of him, all my books in front of him, and he gave me some really good, constructive feedback. He was very complimentary, and I went away feeling marvellous, but it was very balanced as well. And I got a lot more from that than just, well done. You actually go, if that isn't quite right, tell me, please. I want to know how to improve it.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. And so that was my first book. And
wow.
And then you were probably hooked on it.
What a story, though. At 14, that's pretty amazing, dude.
But you probably were hooked on it after that, I would think. I would have been. Well,
it's funny, it's because just before we left, he said, look, when you leave school, come and see me. And I thought, wow, maybe. But my sole ambition when I was 14 at the time, all I ever actually wanted back then was to join the Royal Navy. I wanted to wear a smart uniform. I wanted a structured career path. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to get paid for it. And that was really all I wanted to do. So it was at the back of my mind, and I continued to write, but it wasn't anything I did anything with. It was the Royal Navy was everything I wanted to do. But I left school. I went through the application process and recruitment and sailed through, if you excuse the pun. And then they sent me up to Cheapside in EC1, which is in the centre of London, for my medical. And I went along there, I've got my chest sticking out, bold as brass. I'm going into the Royal Navy. This is all I ever wanted. And I failed. I couldn't believe it. I failed on poor eyesight. Nothing the glasses wouldn't sort out, by the way. And I'm partially deaf in one ear. Not that you would ever know. But, the recruitment procedure was very stringent. And at that time, bearing in mind, this is 1978, the armed forces were cutting back. We weren't having the conflicts that we have now. I think the next major conflict we had after that was in the Falkland Islands, which was in the early 80s. So they were scaling back. I still have these very vivid memories of being shell-shocked and walking back to the train station. And I got in the carriage and I sat down and I just couldn't hold it back. I just cried. I absolutely bawled my eyes out. It was everything that I had wanted for 2 years. And it just kind of fell apart, which really got me. So really, I suppose, for the next 3 or 4 years after that, I was a bit lost. In as much as I followed work jobs for the money, not a structured career path, because
that fell through for you. That fell through for you.
It's only later when you're at my age now and you look back and think, wow, that really did affect me. I found myself in sales and marketing in my early 20s, which was absolutely right for me because my career took off, and which was good, and it worked well for me. I then wrote, keep on the books track here. I wrote another book in my late 20s called The Adolescent. I thoroughly enjoyed the process of writing this book again. I was really excited, and once I completed it, I was so pleased with the originality of the storyline and the depth of characters. And I hadn't read or seen anything quite like it at the time. So I sent it to maybe a dozen publishers up and down the UK. And then one by one, I got those rejections.
I hear about that all the time.
I'm not going to say it was heartbreaking, but it was very disappointing. By this time, I'm in my kind of late 20s, and my career at this time had really kind of quite taken off, and I was managing several profit centres for a large public limited company, a bit like your Fortune 500 companies. Right. So my career was kind of taking off, and what with a young family at the time, time was really at a premium. So I didn't write for maybe another 10 years.
Wow.
But there was always these stories at the back of my mind, and I had one festering away, and it was about 2005, I think it was. Yeah, it must have been about 2005. And I'd had this story in my mind for a good 3, 4, 5 years. And every so often, I still do this. I'm terrible. I get an exercise book and just start making notes, And I would make these notes, and then I sat down and I thought, right, I'm going to write this story. From beginning to end, it took me 4 months, which is pretty quick.
Oh, that's pretty fast.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, that's balancing it with work and a family too. So when the children are in bed, I go down to my study, I close the door, and I'm quite a structured person. And if I set myself targets, I hit my targets. So even when I'm ghostwriting, I say I will hit X amount of 1,000 words this week, and I don't stop until I hit them. Now, I might have to delete some later because I'm not happy or it has not quite in my...
Of course.
Yeah, I get it.
But I must hit the numbers and I must get it down. So I wrote that book, and I just gave it to friends and family, and that was it really. But at this time, I suppose moving on a little bit, my career had taken off further. By now, I'm with another big, large, sort of multi-billion-dollar business, and I was managing one of their wholly owned subsidiaries, a company called Door Panels PLC. We were the largest door manufacturer in Europe. I had over 5,000 customers and producing around 5,000 doors a week. So it was a big business. And the group that I was working for decided that what they wanted to do was to divest all of their manufacturing interests and focus solely on distribution businesses. Because I was still very profitable, I was the last business to be sold. But what they did is they asked me to become the architect for the sale of the business, really, because I'd been doing that for 20 years. I knew anybody that was in my industry in the UK or across Europe, I knew them. So
you were an asset. They were an asset, so they had to keep you, right?
Absolutely. So so I became the architect for the business. The business was finally sold to a European consortium who I knew all the people and I had worked with each of them before. They wanted and contracted me to stay with the business for another 2 years, which was good. But I lost the role as managing director, but took up the role as group strategic development director. So I was looking more into Europe and the UK. But my ambitions were slightly different then. So I managed to negotiate a full year's salary, but for 3 days a week.
Well,
oh, nice.
Don't we wish we all could do that?
I was in quite a strong position. So I leveraged that because I wanted Friday through to Monday night for writing. This was something
that's where you started getting serious.
It's now burning away inside. And I had a story to write and I started getting it down and I was enjoying the process. And then through social media, I came across a family that I knew that lived in South London. And this family were kind of larger than life characters. They really were. They were building these really super fast hot rods, street legal cars. If you can imagine like the street outlaws that you have on your shows now, only they were doing it back in the 1970s with small little British cars with big 5-litre V8s.
Oh, wow.
Like the original Fast and the Furious,
Oh, absolutely. And I knew all the family. We lived all in the same area. And they were real characters. I mean, they were renowned for building super fast cars and engines. And Andy Harris in particular, one of the brothers, he was an out-and-out street racer, and wherever he heard of a fast car anywhere in the United Kingdom, he would get his Mark I Zodiac, nitrous injection, he would go up and find them and want to race them.
Nice.
Talking to these people again, and I started thinking, wow, this is a story. So with their agreement, we've got all of their stories, the anecdotes, and I sewed them all together into a book, which then I went ahead and had published on Lulu, which then went to Amazon, iBookstore, and Barnes and Noble. And it was out there and it was available. And it was a good book. I was really pleased with it. On reflection, if I wrote it again now, it would be better. But anyway, you learn as you get better.
we all do that.
All authors do that, definitely. Yeah. I love that you said, though, like you had those stories were just in your brain. And I think that's what all writers have said when they've kind of put it as a pastime thing that they're doing is that this is a little fire in their brain. Just, I got to get this out. There's so many stories.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's a lovely little saying I put on the end of the book, you know, if it's racing or in the streets or a tear up on the cobbles, then losing just isn't an option. And that kind of really summed up the Harris family. So I did these books and, I then went to work using my kind of sales and marketing skills, really. Within months, you know, I was selling a lot of books. I was being featured in magazines and newspapers. And that's not too shortly after that, kind of talk started with potential movie producers in the UK. But that was, it sounds interesting, but a lot of them just like to drink coffee and talk. But how great they are, you know. But anyway, I entertained them. I would sit down and I would listen, and clearly it was in my mind that I wanted to drive this forward and get the book made into a movie. But while those negotiations were carrying on, I then wrote another book. Only this was Britain's street racing legends, and what I'd done is I piggybacked on the back of the Harris street racing book, but at the same time, I piggybacked on the back of the Fast and Furious franchise. You can imagine that you have these stories out, these movies out there, which millions of people are going to the cinema to watch, and they're totally enthralled in what they're seeing. And then when they come outside, it's gone. Well, what else have I got? So,
something for that audience to do.
Absolutely. I piggybacked on the back of that, and that book that sold extremely well too.
That's cool, man.
But on reflection, I wrote something for an opening in the market, which isn't really what I set out to do. I still had my kind of business brain, if you like, which was I'm sitting there thinking, actually, there's a strategic opportunity here and I need to leverage it. And that kind of goes against what I set out to do. Don't get me wrong, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed writing those books. They were great fun, but it really wasn't what I wanted to do.
Artistically,
Absolutely. And it was about that time that a number of people had come to me and just said, look, I've got this story to tell and I really want to tell it. And I say, okay, talk to me. And then they say, would you write it for me? And we'll come to some agreement. And that's really how the whole kind of ghostwriting thing really started.
Wow. Okay. So you did get a couple of your books in there, but so you said that that's not really what you wanted to do with the books that you had put out. What direction did you really want to take?
That came a little bit later. I suppose after writing that very first, ghostwriting that very first book, and to be able to sit and to listen and to draw everything out of this person. This was the first person I wrote. And of course, you can imagine they're quite guarded because there's feelings attached to some of these stories.
Oh, of course.
So it's very delicate and kind of tiptoe around things, but just dig a little bit deeper to pull it out because it's important to get that dream book absolutely right. And equally, if you're telling a kind of biography, it's almost therapeutic for some of these people, to be able to get that story out there. It needs to be told. And when I finished the first one, I found it, even though my name wasn't on the cover, I found it immensely gratifying. And I enjoyed that. And somebody else then approached me and somebody else approached me. And each project, I just enjoyed every one. And I'm in a very fortunate position in as much as I'm retired. I don't have to do this. I don't charge anything like some of the silly prices that you'll find on Google. I have two very simple criteria. for taking on a ghostwriting project. Number one is I like you. You're a nice person.
Yeah.
I can work with you. You know?
Nice.
And the second one is that you've got a good story and you can tell it with some kind of passion. It means something to you, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, but you've got some enthusiasm, some passion, something that we can both kind of draw from each other on that. And when I get that, that's it. I know I've got 70,000 words to write now, and we're away. And
that is cool though. And just the different, because that means that you're writing different genres because you're hearing different stories and you know these different experiences. So how cool is that? That's like kind of an artist's dream, right? To be able to do it all,
just stays so diverse. So I have to ask you, what is the, I don't know how much you can talk about this, but can you tell us a little bit about the Football Hooligan book?
Look, I can only say that because you've got a non-disclosure agreement for this particular one, but the book has sold. Yeah, the book has sold extremely well, which is great. I say the book. I've written a few books now in the football hooligan genre. It's something that was it was very big in the UK only up until a few years ago. There was a very, very talented film director called Nick Love, and he adapted The Football Factory, which was originally written by John King, and The Firm, which was a TV show. Al Hunter, I think, that did that, and he adapted it for movies, and very successful, very, very successful. Very low cost to make, very, very high returns on video sales and things like that. See, look, I'm back into business mode again, right?
But
that's the attraction.
but you mentioned that, but I have been dabbling. You know, I write novels, fiction novels, but I've been dabbling in writing screenplays, and I've been doing a lot of studying on that, and that's the kind of thing that. You know, you said your business mind, but that really gives your, listening to screenwriters that have had success in TVs. That's what they're looking for. The studios are looking for something that isn't going to cost that much to make, but is going to make money. So there's a lot of good reason for you to think about it that way, in your business mind. Absolutely.
That part of me will never go. And Dan, you're absolutely right. There was a comedy series here many years ago called Blackadder, Aid Edmondson, very, very funny. In the first season that was done, there was a lot of cost attached to all the locations and everything else. You could just see it. And then they brought in 2 new writers for going forward. One young up-and-coming writer, this is the kind of 80s now, Ben Elton. Very, very talented, but he could write something that was extremely funny, but focusing on just a few characters in just a few sets. And that delivers a low-cost, high-value production, doesn't it? I love that. But just going back to the football hooligan bits, it didn't take Hollywood, obviously, to have a look at what was happening into the UK. And they then brought in Dougie Brimson, and Dougie Brimson, very talented writer. He's extremely nice guy. We were going to work together on a project some years ago, but it didn't happen. But anyway, they brought him in and they wrote Green Street Hooligans. It was very cleverly written because it appeals to not just the UK market, but also the American market. Because they brought in Charlie Hunnam and Elijah Wood in the kind of casting roles, really, and melded that kind of UK and US piece together. It worked extremely well.
For better market appeal, across the board.
So the football hooligan books, thoroughly enjoyed them. In the last couple of months, I've been talking to a guy, funnily enough, in your neck of the woods. He's in Florida, who's built up quite a brand for himself, and he's created a lot of media awareness. And we're talking at the moment about a kind of a series of books which will lead to a kind of a movie franchise. But at this moment in time, it's just talk. But it's good talk. It's good talk, and he's an interesting character. This person, he's kind of off the wall.
But that's what you look. But that makes a good story.
That's what's entertaining.
He's different. He's very different. He has the ability. He could be Marmite. Do you have Marmite in America? You either love it. It's a product that you either love or you hate.
It's a food. Marmite is a food, isn't it?
Yeah. But he can be a little bit like that. He's a nice guy. He's interesting. He's got a lot of passion for what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And he's still talking at the moment. If it happens, it'll be next year now.
Well, we've got other friends that are that are writers, and the same kind of thing you just said, where they're in discussions with maybe making a movie, and you never know. We just
never know.
Just our friend Scott Stevens they got a deal now, and they're picking actors for. Yeah. But it's that same kind of thing where it kind of floats as you're having those negotiations. Yeah. You don't know if it's going to go on for years or weeks, so that's very exciting. You never know, and we'll definitely keep our ears up to see how that goes.
But it's still like any part of the process is exciting, though. Even if it ends up not going through, it's just like you had your hands in a part of it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. And if you find and any of your authors find themselves in that arena, then aim to sell the options. Don't try and close the deal on the day. Give them the option to have the right to take it in 12 or 18 months.
Yeah.
And chances are you might even be able to sell your movie options 2 or 3 times. Again, back in the business head here.
Yeah.
Don't focus solely on I must get it over the line.
Yeah.
Sell the option.
Well, Dean, we're going to have offline conversations because as an author, I write as Daniel Fox, but I am not good at marketing myself. And it's why I'm shopping agent on this next novel, because I would rather a publishing company take a majority of my sales profit if they did all the marketing for me, because that is the biggest problem. And I think I read somewhere in a book about how there are so many great stories that never get made and so many so-so stories that do get made because it's the right place at the right time with the right audience that you happen to hit with somebody.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think Amanda Hocking is a really good example of that with her vampire stories. Right time, right place, right product.
Yeah.
E.L. James with 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh yes.
Again, right product at the right time and sold millions. So
I would imagine there's going to be a lot of COVID-19 thrillers coming out here soon. So I want to jump back on something for a minute though. You've written a lot of crime genre type stuff.
Cool.
So I'm curious, when you did the ghostwriting for The Sad Road to Happiness by Allison Parker, that was a change up for you. And
yes.
I'm imagining that was a much different experience for you.
It comes back to what I said earlier on. It comes back to that criteria. If you're a nice person, you've got a good story, then I can just get engaged with it. And I met Alison, and she had a story to tell. And she had suffered with dyslexia during the kind of 1970s, which in England at that time, it was just a middle-class myth. People just thought if you had that, you weren't particularly bright. Well, actually, Alison Parker is a very bright lady. She has an IQ of 150. She's a bright lady, and she had a story to tell. But it wasn't just dyslexia; it was also the seasonal affective disorder, SAD, and what she wanted, her objective was to get this story written, but it wasn't about selling bundles of books and making lots of monies and getting television deals. It was she wanted to share her experience with others in the hope that if somebody else could see anything in there that they could relate to, it would make them feel better, just as she had. When she was given. I'm not going to give away any of her story, but she was a lovely, lovely lady to work with. I thoroughly enjoyed the process. It was great fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Well, it's those kinds of stories, and I understand you don't want to give away anything about the story, but it seems that it's those kinds of stories, those true life struggles that people go through. And we've talked to other people that have written stories that are kind of were meant to be for someone else. If someone else has been through something like this, then maybe it will help you.
It'll help. Yeah.
And I know it's a noble cause, but sometimes those become really big, popular stories because everybody struggles with something.
Absolutely. I think this is where biographies are so interesting because
I agree.
Success in the face of adversity is it's wonderful. It's really uplifting, And I love it when you hear people say that, I read this and it made me understand me so much more.
Yeah, I do too.
And you think, that's a great story to Held. And I know Alison has actually had someone say that to her, which is wonderful. And I'm super pleased for her.
Oh, that is awesome. Great. So it sounds like a lot of people kind of find you probably through word of mouth for the ghostwriting. But if you could choose one person to ghostwrite for, who would you choose?
As much as I enjoy a wide range of topics, I'm most at home in the kind of true crime or fictional crime genre. Yeah. I can really engage into that. Now, if I had to pick one person, it would probably be a gangland criminal called Kenny Noy, a very clever businessman who wasn't directly involved in the Brinksmat robbery in 1983, but he masterminded the sale of the gold. The really clever bit that he did is he didn't take any of their money for the gold. He then took the taxes back off the tax man. Very clever man. Very, very clever man.
Well thought out, yeah.
And that intrigues me. There has been some books written about him, but he, as I understand it, he wasn't involved in that process. So to be able to talk to Kenny Noy and say, tell me more, and get the real story, the real depth, because if that's just the bit that we're being told on the surface, you can be sure there's a big chunk underneath, almost like a what's it called I've lost it now. I'm thinking Titanic, and it's iceberg, like an iceberg. You've got this little bit on the top,
there you go.
Big piece underneath the water, and you could just get at that.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he would be a very interesting person to do the book for. There are a couple of others. Probably a guy called Mickey McAvoy, who actually organised that Brinksmat robbery. That was, again, he carried out robberies on behalf of other gangs and then decided to go alone. There was a really good movie made called Fool's Gold, and it starred Sean Penn. And again, it told a bit of the story.
I think I've seen that. With Sean Penn in it. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've seen that.
That is the story of the Brinksmat. I just think that there is so much more. Very interesting. That would be a good one to be told.
Yeah, very cool. Now, let me get it out here. Okay. Have you ever had, what's like some of the strangest requests that you've had for doing a ghostwriting project? Because there has to have been some that are like, whoa, this is I don't know if I can do this. Or it's just it could be interesting. It could be strange. It could be weird, whatever.
I think, you probably heard me sigh then, right? I probably get, I'm not joking, I get at least 4 inquiries every single month where somebody will come on and they'll say, I've got this fantastic story that I want you to write for me, and I want you to write it and spend 4, 5, 550, 600 hours writing that story for me. I want you to have it proofread and edited all at your cost. And then I want you to create a book cover and publish it, make it available online to everybody. And then I want you to leverage all the people that you know, and I might share some of those royalties with you.
Really?
4 of those every month.
That is...
I read it through and I think, if you're not prepared to invest in yourself, why would anybody else? Why would you?
Exactly.
No, asking for something for free. Ones. Really? Okay, so that's crazy.
I was thinking it was going to be like some crazy story they wanted, but yeah, I can totally relate to that. It's like when other authors ask you, I've had this example where other authors have asked me to proof their work. Like, can you do, and I'm like, I have a great editor, here's her contact info. And they're like, no. I wanted you to just as a buddy, as a fellow author, and
you're trying to do this by yourself. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have time for that.
No.
That takes longer than the writing. All that stuff.
And this is a business where other people, get to profit from the fact that that's their job.
Absolutely. Now, I am not a proofreader. I am not an editor. Sure. I recognise the skills that I have and the skills I don't. If I try to edit and proofread it myself, I fall into the trap of reading the story.
Yes.
Because I wrote it. I know what's coming next.
Yeah.
I'm so close to that story. I know what the next sentence is. I can't proofread it.
Yep. I'm with you.
So with all of my ghostwriting projects, then I outsource it to a professional editor that will proofread it. I pay her a sum of money, and she's very good. And if people contact me and say, Dean, can you help me out here? I mean, I do other services, but can you help me out here? I always push them straight over to Deborah. That's Deborah Becker. She's very good.
All right, we're going to put Deborah Becker's link in the show notes too for you guys that are listening. If you're an author and you're looking for an editor, but Dean, so we interviewed S. Clark Kray about his book Alfie Cray. That was episode 64 of the podcast. For those of you who may want to go back and listen to it or watch it, we heard from him about this, about the process and all. But I kind of wanted to hear you kind of tell us from your angle how this whole thing came about.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny actually. I just finished a project, true crime project, and I probably had a couple of months before my next one was due to start. Yeah. And I'm a member of a couple of groups on Facebook, and one in particular is the Krays and Gangland London, I think it was. Right. And it's run by a lovely lady called Carol Martin. So I contacted Carol and I said, look, would you mind if I just put a post up that just said, look, if you have a story to tell, but you don't have the time, energy or experience, contact me, Dean Rinaldi, Ghostwriter. And Carol said, yeah, absolutely, you can do it, Dean, which is wonderful. So I put that up there and I had 3 people contact me within a couple of days. But one of them shone out like a beacon in a storm, if you like, and this was Scott S. Clark Kray. The enthusiasm was leaping out the page at me. And I thought, now, okay, let's think about this one. This is S. Clark Kray. He's related to the notorious Kray twins. That's Ronnie and Reg. And to put that into perspective for some of your American audience, this is the equivalent of Al Capone. Whitey Bulger.
What was the name of that movie? Was the name of the movie Legend? I can't remember the
Legend.
Was it Legend?
Yeah, Legend. Superb movie.
I loved it.
Acted by Tom Hardy. He played both parts of Ron and Reg. So
very different, those twins. That's what was so cool to see in the movie, because they had totally different personalities.
Absolutely. Reg was very much the kind of cool, calm, collected businessman, very capable, whereas Ron, on a bad day, you'd probably liken him to Tony Montana from Scarface, acted out by Al Pacino. He was like standing there with a machine gun, just shooting everybody.
His side of the story to me was so entertaining because he was a loose nut. He was ready to go nuts.
You didn't want to be around him.
Absolutely. And he was notorious for that. So of course, having a genuine member of the Kray family approach you, my initial thoughts were, look, the Kray twins books have been done to death, really. Sure. There's 17 publications I know of. But this is something new. This is Alfie Cray. And Alfie Cray was rumoured to have been the architect of many of the heists that took place in and around London, and then an international trader in diamonds and gemstones, etc. But he was brought in as family to the twins. He was uncle to the twins to run Esmeralda's Barn, which was a nightclub casino in Knightsbridge, which is right in the centre of London. And this is 1962, and the twins had just kind of expanded their criminal empire across London.
So interesting.
So immediately you're sitting here and you're thinking, well, so this guy is looking at Esmeralda's Barn. He's frequented by kind of aristocrats, politicians, criminals, working girls, rent boys. This is a real den of inequity. And Alfie Cray, the person, could move very smoothly and easily between the upper classes and your downright violent criminals. He can move very easily. To me, that made him a really interesting character.
That is very, yes.
And of course, Scott had lots of stories to be able to tell, which we spoke over and over and over, and we managed to pull the whole thing together quite well. It was a very exciting project, and I really enjoyed working with Scott. Lovely fella.
And probably a lot of research involved in that kind of story, because you probably want to get the time period, accurate dates, accurate things like that to bring, because it's real life things that happen, but you turned it into a fictional story.
Absolutely. Yeah. The key bit there, I believe, is what you do is you take as your anchors, if you like, facts. You take those facts and you build your story around those facts. If you look at, say, like Boardwalk Empire, tremendous TV show that was fantastic. Yeah. And yet he dropped in about Al Capone and things like that. So he'd anchored real things that had happened. So you come away and it's a believable story.
Yeah, we call it historical fiction. And I love the Boardwalk Empire, but that's why I love some of the old Westerns like Wyatt Earp or Young Guns or whatever, because so much of it really happened, but all the gaps in between they had to fill. So it drives up the story. Some of the stuff you never would really know if it happened, but it doesn't really make a story if all you do is list the things. Now you're writing a history book. So that's super.
And ultimately, what you're looking to do is to entertain the reader. Yes. I always say that it's those opening chapters that are absolutely critical. You've got to engage the reader at an emotional level. They've got to want to continue to invest their time in the rest of your book. Amen. So those first opening chapters are critical to me.
Really
after that,
really getting somebody hooked on your first book. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because then they want more from that author.
It's like first book, first chapters, first sentence. There's one of those master classes out there I watched a little snippet from, but I wish I could remember the author's name because I know I do this all the time, but it was James Patterson. Actually, I just finally remembered it. But he wrote that even if you can, the first sentence of the first page of your book can serve as a critical component to getting people, especially now where everyone's sort of, ADD. So I couldn't agree with you more. The first few chapters of a book, and if you don't have somebody within the first chapter or so, you're going to lose them. They're going to drift off and never finish it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've got those opening chapters, those first 10 to 12,000 words, you've got to nail it. They have got to be connected at an emotional level. And if you don't think you've done it, go back and do it again. That's it. Just go back and do it again.
Lots of rewriting goes around in this house. Yes, lots of. So on your website, I saw that you ghost wrote a business book, which actually would make a lot of sense to me after talking to you because you're like in business mode. But talk a little bit about that, because I love for the people listening that they can see that you're a ghostwriter to all sorts of genres of books. So you're not limited to just true crime type books or historical fiction. You have such a wide variety of topics that you can cover and present it accurately based on what they want you to write. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. Just before we do that, I'll just finish with S. Clark Kray, because once his book was out, and which was great, I got a message from Scott. He said that there was a drive-by shooting on his house, and this is just shortly after the book was released. And this is fact. And initially, my thoughts were, oh my God, maybe, is this some kind of historical
retaliation or
absolutely, because there were things in that book that are true that haven't been featured before, and that's your first kind of thoughts. And then you think, or was it just some gun-toting criminal that just happened to be driving down an affluent road in Tampa and opened up his shots on Scott's house? I suppose we'll never really know that.
No.
But that was an interesting one. When I read it from Scott, it was so matter of fact.
It's so more intriguing now that you said that.
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely. That's completely true. It was in the Tampa newspaper. But anyway, moving on to your question. I wrote this. I was contacted, funny enough, from a guy in America. And I hadn't written a business book before, but what this guy wanted to do, he was quite clear about what he wanted, because his daily charge out rate had dropped by nearly 50%. And he was finding it increasingly to get well-paid work. And what he wanted to do was to stand out over and above some of his competitors. And it made a lot of sense to me, because I think having a book with your name is probably one of the best business, your name on the cover as the author is probably one of the best business cards that you can have. It sets you aside from other people. You are going to stand out in the crowd. And anyway, we had a chat, and obviously with my background as well, listening and talking to him, I could see that he was very talented, and he was clearly able to deliver the services he did. But I talked him into making this much more of a story that still had those outcomes, but I wanted to include how it impacted those people in the business. So it became more of a broader and wider appeal, if you like. Other than that, it's a statement, isn't it? I came in, I did this, I did that, and that was the end game. Well, that's for accountants. What we're looking for here is I want you to read this story and show how it impacted positively those people in the business. Some of those people, it didn't. Some of those people had to go. Well, that's part of the process of that kind of business anyway. He told me what he wanted, and we agreed a format. And within the 30 weeks, I wrote the book for him and had it published. And what he decided to do, he was going to start looking further afield for his work. And he'd contacted a couple of companies in Dubai. And he went over there, and on his first interview, he placed the book down on the table, told me a little bit about himself, and I'm an author. And after I spoke to him later, he said, Dean, he said, the whole nature of the interview changed completely. Wow. It wasn't sitting back, arms folded, I'm just going to fire questions at you, along with the next 10 people that come in. It changed completely. At the end of the interview, he left the book with him. He was called back for the second interview and given the job.
Amazing.
Now, lovely fella, very nice guy. He deserves all the success that he has, because he's very good at what he does, and he's now making more in a week than he was making in a month in the US.
Wow.
So his strategy was to have a book written about his skills and what he could deliver, and it worked really well.
So he had a really good vision. I mean,
yes, he did.
He had a vision that this is something that I need to do. So, oh my gosh, that is quite a kind of chilling story, like amazing.
I also like that you kind of did it in a story format. I would have never thought. I was thinking more of like a how-to business book, which those are so boring.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I wanted real characters in there. Tell me about the people. Now, and you start asking those questions, and you start telling you a little bit more and a little bit more. And you could see how it was impacting people around the business. Some people engage fully into change. Others are highly resistant. They don't understand why they are.
Personality
they just
types.
are.
Yeah.
And it was important to bring that out into the story as well. But ultimately, he was very successful, and he delivered. His deliverables were as the brief. And that's what I wanted, or that's what we wanted. I thought it was tremendous foresight with him, really. He recognised that he couldn't write that story, but he knew what he wanted to say. And I could write it, over time, I could write it in his voice. So that works well. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was, again, that's to come back down into your study and you've got another really exciting, different project. That's exciting.
I love that I can see the enthusiasm on your face when you talk about that. Like, this is the job you were meant to do. You know what I mean? Like, you can see it on you, definitely.
I was going to say, Dean, you clearly have a passion for your work, but I'm curious what you're working on now. I mean, can you tell us what you're working on now? Maybe ghostwriting projects, or maybe even your own stuff.
I can actually. This is fantastic, actually. Quite by chance, only a couple of months back, take it back a little bit. I've had this story in my mind for some time, and quite by chance, I was introduced to the lead singer of a big 1970s rock and roll group. They were very big in the UK. I don't think they did anything in the US, but they were huge. I mean, they were doing like 250 gigs a year. They were on all the major shows and everything. And I suppose I was quite a fan as a young kiddie back in the 70s. And anyway,
can you tell us who or no?
I can't at the moment, but I will be able to. It's only time.
That adds the intrigue.
That's right.
Yeah, but you know, I think one of the most wonderful things was actually when once I started talking to him, what a lovely fella, really nice, grounded guy. You know,
oh, wow,
not full of himself, he wasn't like that at all. Just a really nice guy, and I took through some of my ideas. And he liked them. He liked them a lot, and we decided that we would work together. And this last 6 weeks, I've managed to put out, as of today, I finished at 5 today. I've managed to put out 46,000 words.
Wow!
That for me, I normally will take 6 months to do a project, but this story is writing itself. I'm going to bed with a pen and paper by the side, and I'm waking up and I'm writing something down, and I'm adding more depth to the characters, and I'm thoroughly enjoying the process. It's a subcultural novel, a subculture novel based in the 1970s, and behind it as well, there's a rationale behind it. Now, this particular group and the genre of music they produce has over 1 million fans on Facebook. You know, on the various sites. So if you start thinking from a business perspective, because for the first time ever, this actually works very well for me, because I'm thoroughly enjoying writing the book, but the business bit is ticking away as well. It's saying, well, if they've got 1 million and I'm writing a trilogy, we're doing a trilogy together, then if I get just 2% is 60,000 books.
Yeah.
Now, 60,000 books, everything more than it's a bonus. You're very happy with that. But not only that, it gives you a platform then, for television and movie interest, because you've actually tapped in to an existing market and something that's never been done before for this particular subculture group. It's been done about football hooligans, and it's been done about skinheads and things like that, but not this particular group, even though it's huge and arguably the very first subculture in the UK. And subcultures supported by music trends in the UK is probably the biggest on the planet. We've probably had more than anybody else. Growing up in the 70s, I could tell you half a dozen straight away. There were these different kind of subcultures, and this one has been really exciting to write. I had to stop at 5 o'clock today. I could have carried on, but to have hit that 46,000 words in 6 weeks I'm really pleased with myself. I will have this book, the first draft will be finished certainly by the end of March, if not before.
Wow.
That sounds interesting. Yeah. I mean, just your enthusiasm behind it. You're like, oh, I need to know what this is. What is this subculture? I'm going to start Googling as soon as we get off this call, and I've got to figure it out now.
It's very different. It's a lot of fun. And I mean, I'm really inspired working with this guy as well, because he's a nice guy and he has the brand and I have the product. And in any business, that works extremely well. He's the face, the name, but I've got the story. And he loves the story. I just wrote a very, very kind of a summary of it, and his eyes lit up, and he was straight back to me. And I'm in. I like that.
And
I've seen anything like that before.
Yeah, I kind of get the impression too that you writing the story, it's kind of taking you there, right? To maybe you weren't a part of that subculture.
Absolutely.
There and you're kind of living it, and you're like, oh yeah, this is fun.
I love this. I will sit in my study here. I will put some music on from that particular year, and I close my eyes, and the pictures come in, and the characters start forming, you have your protagonist, your antagonist, your conflict, your resolution, and it's all happening, and you're there and you're away. And I love dialogue in books. I think it's so important because you're then drawn in, just as you are sitting here listening to people talk or something, you're just drawn in. And I do believe a good book is a nice mix of show and tell. And I'm just thoroughly enjoying this one. I mean, I enjoy all my projects, but this one, this one's just here to hit the spot. I will write the trilogy. I will have that. What I can't make up my mind about at the moment is whether to write the whole trilogy first, release them, or release one book, then a second, and then the third. I've not decided on that yet. I'll speak to the other guy, but
so I like the idea of releasing them one at a time.
I do too,
because I feel like it just makes people just go like, oh, I want that so bad.
It drives up the excitement.
And when it releases, it is crazy town. You know that.
And it gives it time, and it gives it time for chatter to build too, for like people that maybe missed the first one. I would agree with Angie. I feel like there's so much synergy that builds with it, and you have a captive audience, like you said. Even if you only get a small percentage, I feel like there'll be like a stir just from people talking. Oh, did you read this book? And then it could be that when book 2 comes out, some people are just getting book 1 because they just heard about it.
Yeah, and that also, again, from a business perspective here, then you can start exploring your pricing strategy as well. So you start bringing in those volumes on book 1, and you can increase your price slightly on book 2 and again on book 3 because you've got your audience now. They're in. Right. They don't care about another dollar. They really don't. They want the story. Yeah. That's my latest one. I can't say too much more about it, but I'm very excited.
That sounds super interesting. That's your latest ghostwriting project. Are you doing any of your own stuff now, or are you kind of putting that on the shelf for now?
That's on the shelf at the moment. Okay. I'm meeting a guy. He's in April through somebody here, funny enough. And this guy was an international bank robber right across Europe. He had a group of guys that carried out armed raids right across Europe. So I'm going to meet with him in April because I think that's potentially another great story to tell. I'll only know when I actually get down to sit down and talk to him because he might have a great story. But sometimes, I've had this in the past where some of Britain's most notorious and infamous gangsters' family members will approach me about working and writing a book or something, and I can get quite excited about the story because I know who they are, and there's still stories to tell. But after 10 minutes talking to him, you think, I can't work with you. I'm just not going to be able to work with you.
The synergy between you has to be there to be able to tell the story correctly, or the energy. You're not going to put the right energy into it, I believe.
Absolutely, and you've nailed it there because it all comes back to that very simple 2 criteria I have. If I like you and you have a great story with enthusiasm, we're on. We're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen, and that's it. So I'll be meeting this guy in April. It has the basis of a good book, so that'll be good. And I've got another project to start in April. I'm meeting him, and I have a project to start that's been confirmed now for July. So I can't say too much on that one at the moment, but it's going to be a fictional novel again. So for somebody else with a story to tell, my name won't feature on that one. And that's the thing with a ghostwriter. I've got 14 books I've written.
Wow.
You're keeping very busy. Do you have any time for reading yourself?
I do read. I like to read Winsley Clarkson. I think he's a damn good author, and I enjoy his work. And
is that your favorite author? Is he your favorite?
I do enjoy his work. It's very difficult to put down his books, and I like that. I do like that. And Dougie Brimson as well. I mentioned him earlier. He wrote the Green Street Hooligans, and he's written several books himself. I think he's been #1 in the charts now with one of his books for over a decade and sold 350,000 books. That was just one of his books. But they're very laddish books, and they're the kind of things I can pick up and read, and I find myself laughing out loud because at some point in my life I've met someone like that, or I know someone like that, and you can just visualize it. And I think he's a very talented guy, and I like his work. So if I am going to sit down and read something, chances are it'd be Wensley Clarkson, a Dougie Brimson, or something that's true crime.
That's your kind of go-to genre?
Yeah, I like that. Something, with a bit of depth to it, something that you haven't heard before.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So, so you're busy ghostwriting. Is there any other services that you do? Because I read something about mentoring.
That's true. Yes, I do. There's a couple of things I do. I said earlier, people do ask me about editing and proofreading. I don't do that. I always hand that out to Rebecca. She's very good. But what I am able to do there is Jill. She has all the software here. She'll produce people their book covers or promotional material for their books, which I'm happy to do, or she's happy to do. And what I have done quite recently, we've taken a stake in a business that produces cinematic book trailer videos. It's still very early days, but I've probably done about a dozen or so far. I've not really been promoting it, and that I think is books won't sell themselves. If you've got something very visual, I think it's the best that you can have, because something yourself. You look on Facebook and something's just written, you might gloss over it. If something's written with a picture above it, you may read part of it. If it's a video and it's short, it's got you. And if it's short, punchy, with the right music and the right images, before you know where you are, you've watched it through to the end. Now, these videos are 30, 60 and 90 seconds long. And I do offer the services of professional voiceover actors. So that's the voices of Morgan Freeman, Dame Judi Dench, Ray Winston. There are literally hundreds of names that are available. Again, it's quite new for me, but it is. Amazing. But it's coming back to whether you're a first-time or an established author. Books don't sell themselves, and this is a pretty low-cost way of putting something out onto. I think there's 13 or 14 video sharing platforms now online, and clearly the more exposure that you get, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, the list goes on. All of it goes some way towards helping. Providing you with exposure for building a brand for you as an author and promoting your book and getting sales. So, that's something else I am doing at the moment.
A little bit of everything there.
It comes back.
Except for the editing, and I understand why.
Again, it's people just say, sometimes I write a book for somebody and it's all done and dusted. And I could probably describe this best as you're having this, you've built a race car, but it's inside your garage, right? What you've got to do is now open up the garage door, get it out on the drive, wash it down, start it up and get it out onto the racetrack. And that's your marketing part. Sometimes people will have a book written and they just, that's it, I've done it now. Why isn't it selling? It doesn't work that way. And I'm not saying that cinematic video book trailers is the answer to everything. It's not, but it goes some way towards getting you greater exposure at a very low cost.
And always talking about your book, because I know Dan has a problem with that sometimes because he feels like he might be being pushy. But no, hey, there's a lady over there at the library at the campsite looking in the books. Sometimes they have a little library. Go get a book out of the car. Take your book to her, get it in her hands, because you never know whose hands
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll give you a quick example, if you don't mind. When I was promoting the book, The Harrises, I was contacted by a place called the Ace Cafe in West London. It's been there for years. It's a huge cafe, and people that drive motorbikes and hot rods and American cars will go there to live bands, and the place is packed out 7 nights a week. And they contacted me and just said, look, we would really like to do some kind of joint promotion. And they liked my work, and I donated some books. I can't remember how many. It might have been 20 or 30 books, which is a bit of a cost. But, in the whole scheme of things, for somebody to be standing up and doing a raffle in front of hundreds of people, night in, night out, saying, and the next prize is The Harrises by Dean Rinaldi, the real Fast and Furious. And then you've got people in the audience going, I've heard of the Harrises. They're the ones that build those cars. Blimey, I bet there's a story and a half there. And bang, and the book starts selling. You spend a few $100s, the equivalent, and you're getting that exposure. And the next thing, because of that, they then contacted me again and said, look, we're putting on a car show. We're sponsoring it. Would you come down and do a book signing? And so I found myself down in Brighton on the south coast, and I'll be doing book signings down there, and then I'll be talking to people that operate in car magazines, and we start talking, and of course between guys and a passion for cars, it all starts coming out, and then they say, look, come do a book signing for us, and they put you up in a hotel, and they give you a stand, and you're away, and it's not work to be able to sit there and talk to lots and lots of people about a shared passion.
It doesn't work at all, man.
So coming right back to what you said there, Angie, you're absolutely right. If there is an opportunity, take it, because you never know where it's going to lead. You can't sit back. Time is a very precious resource. Make the absolute most of it. And if you're putting so much time aside to promote your books, make sure you leverage every minute out of that. And I believe passionately, and I really do believe this, that if you push and you push and you push, sooner or later something gives. It will. It's the unwritten rule of sales. Everything you do now will come good in 3 months' time.
Wow.
I believe that. And that's strategy, and it's important to do. And it's fun. It's fun.
I'm telling you, just be able to talk about your book to people, sit there and have somebody come up and show the appreciation for it. And, will you sign my book? Oh, you're a little rock star. Like, that's how I feel.
I agree. But I think, Dean, with you, it's more your sort of business acumen and your sales and marketing experience coupled with your writing. That's a very good match for an author.
Mix,
because a lot of us on the author side don't have that. We need someone like you to help with that.
That's the hardest part of all. I mean, I tend to think that writing a book is only 20% of the work. The rest of it, the other 80%, is getting yourself out there and marketing. And what I do when I take on a ghostwriting project, at the end, when the book is published, what I do is I send over something like 50 suggestions for them to help market themselves. And these suggestions are free. What it takes is time.
I was going to say
effort and determination.
You're going above what you're even hired to do, because you're trying to, teach them and mentor them kind of, hey, this is your next step.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think I am the only ghostwriter that will actually take you right from the concept of your story, see it right away through to publication with everything in between, make sure that you are then listed with the major sites. But after that, here is some information to say, I would suggest that you incorporate this into your strategy to sell to sell your book. It's important to carry that enthusiasm on. 20%. That's it. It is. Writing a book is hard work. But then if it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be worth doing.
Right.
And at the end of it, you've created your legacy. You know, I think that's so important, particularly on people that write biographies. You know, if you don't do this, your story will never be told. You'll be nothing more than a couple of lines on Ancestry.com or something.
Yeah.
You were born here, you died here, and you did this because it's on your marriage certificate. And there is so much more to you than that.
Yeah.
So it's a legacy.
I love it put that way. I love it put that way. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Dean, tell us what's next. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I mean, I know that's a ways away, but you know, I always what's next? Like, is there something that you're kind of going after that you want to accomplish in the next few years? Let us know.
I'm not looking to create any kind of business. I'm very, very happily retired. What I would like is a nice steady stream of interesting projects to come in. And I'm very fortunate that is happening. I like that. I would like, well, actually, I had some good news today. As you know, I worked with S. Clark Kray with Alfie Cray, the asset. We did agree to do 3 books together. I'm about halfway through the second book, and Scott asked me to put it on hold. You know, he wanted it shelved for the time being. I think he was consumed with other things. But funnily enough, he came back today. Incredible, really. He came back on today and he left a message. He said, "Dean, we've really got to get the second book done." Now, that's going to be a tough one, but I will get it done this year because I'm in a very fortunate position. I'm over 30,000 words in. So,
wow.
And I know we know the story. We've sat down between us and we've literally got it laid out by chapter in the second book and in the third book. And it's funny, actually, the second book is in America as well. And I'm so excited because, again, there's so many interesting things happened in America in 1964. You know, it was a real transitional year. And to have Alfie Cray in Los Angeles at that time, very interesting. Really enjoying that. So I'm looking forward to getting that done. Other than that, you know, just a nice steady stream of interesting projects, lovely people with great stories, and it's a nice way to spend your retirement. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can bring some interest to somebody out there.
Thank you very much.
Story, and they will be reaching out to you.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have any problem fulfilling that. I
don't either.
You know, where can people find you, Dean?
You can find me on Facebook as Dean Rinaldi, ghostwriter, publisher, author, or you can find me on my website, which is www.deanrinaldi/ghostwriter.com. You can contact me either one of those ways. So look, anybody listening, if you have a story that you really do need to share, but you don't have the time, the energy due to work or family commitments, or the experience to see a project through to publication, then contact me, Dean Rinaldi, and let's see what we could do together.
Excellent. We'll put all those links in the show notes and in the YouTube notes. So if you're listening or watching now, you can just scroll down and click that link and get in touch with Dean.
That's right. Don't just be an entry on Ancestry.com.
Absolutely. Definitely don't.
You have an amazing story. Reach out to Dean.
That is a great sort of tagline right there.
I plugged Ancestry.com too. Look at that.
Hey.
Sponsorship, people.
Dean, thank you so much for taking the time with us. This has been so interesting, and you know, we wish you continued success.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for inviting me onto your show. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, Angie. It's lovely to see you, and thank you, Dan.
I hope to see you in person one day.
That would be lovely. I would really like that, whether that's here or whether that's in Florida, because I want to see your mum again. You know, both Jill and I do, and Jeremy. You know, I've always thought Jeremy was just a cracking. I don't think he's a kid here. Of course, he's a grown man with his family.
So, for those of you listening, Dean knows my family, and years ago, he when I was a teenager, he came to Florida with his family and stayed with us for a bit. And this was the first time I'd talked to Dean since then. But yeah, it would be so cool to see you again in person, whether it be here or there. We'll have to, continue to stay in touch and see who's going to be there.
All right, Dean, you have a great rest of your evening over there in Turkey. And we look forward to helping in any way that we can in the future. So just reach out if you need anything at all, okay?
Thank you, Ange. Thank you, Dan.
Right,
Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much, Dean. Take care.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
All right. For those of you listening, watching, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the show. What an interesting interview. Another international interview.
Yeah.
That was really cool to learn all about ghostwriting and what Dean does.
Oh, it
what
really
a cool
was.
job, man.
I know such a variety of different kinds of books, the mentoring, the guy's got it going on for sure.
So I love it. If you guys have a story to tell, which like he said, everybody does, definitely shoot him a message and get your story out there if you've ever thought about it. How cool would that be? How cool would that be to have your story out there? Anyway, guys, we had a pretty exciting weekend. So we went camping at a local place called Little Bit of Life. It's an urban farm right here. It's considered a popka, correct?
Oh, is it really?
Oh, no, it's considered outdoor.
Okay.
I'll
put a link in the show notes so you can find it.
But it's a really cool little urban farm, and we actually camped on the property, and we did a little tour of the farm.
So many animals there. It's very cool.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
So we definitely encourage you guys to check that out. We'll put the links in the show notes and on our website so you can check it out. And I'm sure you'll probably put a video or something together.
I will at some point. I will put in the next week or so. I'll put together a video that I'll put on our YouTube channel. Yeah. Also, we talked about Tracy, who runs and owns the farm out there.
Yeah.
She may be a guest on the show coming up. So we're working on that too.
Yeah, we're going to message her and hopefully have her on the show so you can hear all about it.
Yeah.
And I do want to remind everybody that our favorite Italian restaurant, they are doing their grand opening for the market that they opened.
Yeah.
So we're super excited to check that out this weekend, the 26th. It starts at 8 a.m. And ends at 8 p.m. on the 27th. That's this upcoming weekend.
Very nice.
Let me tell you guys, you've got to check it out.
We're going.
Yeah, there is homemade pasta. The pasta artisan pasta workers are actually there making it. You can watch them through a window.
Yeah.
Just amazing items in the store there. They're going to have free tastings. They're going to have giveaways. It's so a true grand opening. So please check out Tornatore's Italian Market grand opening February 26th and 27th.
Oh, this is going to be awesome.
So we're going to have a busy weekend because we also have Wekiva Paint Out. So at Wekiva Island, they do the paint out, which we talked about a couple times so far. And this is just where they invite artists from all over the place to come and paint the Wekiva. So it's painting outdoors.
Yeah.
Beautiful scenery.
Really is.
To be inspired by. And
I've been to one of those years ago. It is amazing.
Yeah.
You can just see the artists sitting up and down the river. They just pick a spot in the water or on the shore, and they just paint the spot they're looking at.
And sometimes they'll take a canoe or a kayak and actually go down the river. So if you are kayaking or canoeing, you might see somebody set up painting on the side of the river.
That's right.
How awesome is that?
What a cool idea. I love it.
Yeah. So they have 4 different special events going on. You can check the Wekiva Island website out. We'll have links for that as well. But 4 different events that you can choose from, or you can just show up at the island and check out the painters. I mean, really, it's that easy. Great local hangout, and we love to support the island.
We do. Such a great place. You've nailed all the news that you and I talked about before the second half of the show. The only thing I wanted to mention was my second novel, Lies That Bind. I've started actual production with a voice talent for the audio version of that book. So I'm so excited to get that out on Audible. We're still working on the time frame, but the whole thing should be done at the very longest within about 3 months. Yeah. So I'm excited to get
the actor that you got for that is really good.
Oh, he's so good.
He has a good reading voice.
Yeah. And I will announce his name and everything as we get a little closer.
Yeah. And guys, as always, we thank you so much for listening. You are the reason why we do this for the community. So thank you so much for tuning in each and every week. Whatever, I can't talk. Leave it in there. Don't edit it out.
I'm not editing today.
Okay. If you have someone that you think would be interested on being on the show, or you want to be on the show yourself, give us a call at 407-490-3899, or you can email us at feedback@fineandangie.com.
That's right. And if you enjoy the show, please give us a rating or a review. Those reviews really, really help us, as do the ratings. If you love the show, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player. And we want to ask you today, like we ask you every week, what are you doing to help those in your community? And how can you help more people? Maybe you've got some extra money to give. Maybe you've got some time to give. Maybe you just need to help the people that you already see in your day. I know we're not out and about as much right now with COVID, but as Angie pointed out, you could be as simple as holding the door for someone. If
that's right,
if that's what your capacity is, it's just it's a thing that comes back to all of us. And the more we all help each other, the better the world is. Boy, that sounds so hippy dippy, doesn't it?
I like being hippy dippy. You know that. Or support your local businesses by going to their grand openings or making donations at places at Lake Wekiva Island that actually helps to clean up the river,
restore everything,
keep everything nice and pretty so that you can enjoy nature.
That's right.
All right, guys, thank you so much. And remember, at the end of each and every single day, it's all fine and dandy.